Here again, Soul Speak, sitting by a beautiful lake. Um, yeah, we just met with my best friend. Um, Mark's only you only met her in passing,
Yeah.
but I got us all together because I wanted us to talk about a potential um, business venture. Not even just business, but just kind of thinking about creating a space. A healing space where we can just get people together and just do hippy dippy stuff, and a place where people can feel safe and relaxed and explore their consciousness. um, but I think that today we could kind of just talk about you know the importance of being open to just trying new things like that, and even just allowing yourself to think about those new possibilities, right? And not be afraid to have those conversations, because at least for me in the past, I felt like, sometimes even talking about that stuff would make me nervous, right? Because I was
Definitely.
kind of just afraid and just anxious about, feeling like a failure or something. So like, oh, well, if we talk about it and we don't do it, then I'm a, piece of shit or whatever. Or, like I'm afraid to talk about it because I definitely don't want to do that. I don't want to put myself out there. Like, there could be a whole bunch of, you know, deep subconscious reasons why we might be afraid of starting something new. But, um, I guess
Yeah.
we could talk about the importance of just following that passion and that excitement, and just allowing it to breathe and just pouring some energy into it. Even if it doesn't go past today, it would still be a conversation that what I think was important. And I think even just talking about a vision like that is going to contribute to it, in some way. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, how many times do we think about things and then end up not taking any type of action on it, right? We might get
Yeah.
excited about something, or for whatever reason, though, we
For
don't take
whatever
the next
reason,
step. So,
for right or wrong.
right or wrong, one thing I've learned, I think you learned as well, it is important to get momentum going in this reality. So,
Yeah.
just take that initiative. If you are excited about something, don't be afraid to call your friend, get somebody involved, just get the conversation going, because um, it does create momentum, and then you can get the ball rolling.
Exactly. I
Um,
think that's important,
yeah,
because I think yeah, I think that is important. It seems commonsensical, but I'm only now starting to realize how important that is, where it's like, hey, let's, even if like we just got together once a week, like me, you, and her, and just talked about it for 2 months and didn't actually physically do anything, we would have so much, we would be so much more comfortable with the idea by then, we
hmm
would already know things that we don't know now. We would already have certain ideas that we just don't have now, so it's like the power of our focus, right? Like, even without taking, of course, the
yeah,
physical action is important, but you can build a world without without your hands. Like, you could build something in the ethereal realm, just from a conversation, just from good energy. And even if you just use that imagination to create stories, like if you're an artist, you could,
definitely,
it doesn't have to be one, it doesn't have to be anything physical, right? But um, I think it's good. I think I now notice the power and the beauty of, yeah, just being like, hey, like, let's talk about this. Hey, let's send each other
for
resources
sure.
for this, because just keeping it alive in your mind is an important habit. I've discovered that with putting more time and energy into music. It's like, even if I just open up my DAW, like my digital audio workstation, and I just kind of review my recordings and kind of listen back to them, and I'm like, okay, that sounds good, that sounds good. I think I might need to re-record this, or I might need to add some compression, even if I don't actually do anything, but I just kind of put it in my brain. Or hell, even if
hmm
I'm just in the shower and I just think about, yeah, that one take was pretty good, it has a little bit more, a little more twang to it, or whatever. Just,
Yep,
just keeping it, just keep coming back to it. You're gonna keep it alive, right? Just
for
keep
sure.
just keep it alive and build
One of
on
the
it.
main, maybe one of the main reasons that maybe we don't take action, there's some type of fear there, right?
Of course. Of
Yeah.
course.
So just getting through that fear, and having the courage to take the initiative,
Mm-hmm.
because you never know what's going to come out of a conversation. I mean, how many times have I, in the past couple years, took inspired action on something, not knowing what it was going to lead to, but it ended up leading to like something else that was even greater. And then you start to gain momentum, and then
Mm-hmm.
synchronicity kicks in, and then you meet this person, and then before you know it, you're right.
Exactly.
So the key is in this reality to act on your passion and excitement without the expectation of what it's going to lead to. So if we can
It's huge,
dropping the
yeah.
like ego's idea of what it's going to lead to, um, because that will create more resistance. So acting on it just for the sake of doing it, like, oh, like you called me up, it's like, hey, or I think I said, hey, let's get together.
Yeah.
Kendall wants to come. Awesome, cool, let's do it. And then we just had an
Mhm.
amazing, probably 2-hour conversation.
Yeah. And I facilitated, that aspect on purpose, like for her to come. I was
Yeah.
like, because I knew, it was like I knew. It was like, we'll get us together, and it'll just be.
It was awesome.
It'll just happen
Flowed
naturally.
beautifully. It was great. Threw around some really good ideas. Got to know each other more, and who knows what's going to come out of it. But the key is that I'm learning more and more, like just acting on that passion and getting momentum moving on whatever you're excited about, whatever your passions are, whatever your dreams are. Put some energy into it.
Dude, it's crazy. Like the actually applying that of not having expectation. I mean, it's God. It's it's like
it's tough.
It's
but
tough.
that's
what we're striving for. But I think the reminder is to like for me to like make it realistic for myself. I like to just connect it to like I actually try and put myself out of my own personal limited experience and just say, just remind myself, right? I'm like, it's like we know this stuff is like spiritual people, but it's like, yeah, like a higher mind, right? Like a higher order of things, like a greater level of consciousness that must know more than you, right? That must have some, it's this level, like we've seen it before in our lives many times. So it's just like you gain that trust more and more. It's just like trust is not just there. I think like trust is not just default. I think trust is something that we can practice, right? So it's like building that skill of like every time you want to give it that, but the economy this year, but it's just like those are all disempowering things. Like of course we want to take all factors into account, but again, right, we can't take all factors into account, right? And if we understand that we're vibrational beings, right, when you're trusting in that higher mind, you're following your joy, right? Like Bashar would say, like following that excitement, there's going to be there's going to be, right, the energy that creates worlds aiding you, not a political party or an investor. It's going to be like something
that's
magical.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and the more that you work the system, the more that like you will gain trust.
Of course.
And you will see that your higher self is guiding you in this realm.
Yeah.
And you can, as the physical mind, you can let go of the responsibility of trying to figure everything out.
Yeah.
Right. That's when you're only operating from the physical organism, the ego mind identity, right? Of course it's going to be fearful. I think there's a quote from A Course in Miracles about that. Like, you have every right to be fearful if you're trying to create and live solely from the human aspect, from your physical mind. So, but one key, just to bring it back though, to the importance of getting momentum going, and Bashar talks about this too. In this reality, the language of it is action. So we can't just leave things as ideas, or right. So you got to get inspired, have good ideas, but then you have to act on them to get the momentum moving.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that because that's something I need to really like learn within myself.
Yeah.
The importance of grounding something and acting on the passion,
because it means
not leaving it as an idea.
Yeah. Well, I think like Dispenza says, it's the plane of demonstration, right? He says from thinking to doing to being. So it makes sense that if we go from the place of having an idea to imagine us having this conversation a year from now and we actually had a physical space, like if we did that and we actually, like what we would have gone through, right? Like to make that happen, like good or bad, just saying like all of the experiences and lessons we would have learned, like actually, all the finance, like working with, right, through people that are close, but still, we're still working with money, right? And we're still like all the things we'd have to go through, like that process is invaluable, right? Like for the people that would have the conversation and not act on it versus the people that had the conversation and did act on it, they would trust themselves more. They would respect themselves more, maybe, which isn't really valid, right? We all have inherent worth, but just from a human perspective, like you say some shit that you mean and you actually do it, like, that's a big deal, right? Because
Totally.
you know as well as I do, like all the stuff we've done when, for example, because we both work out a lot, it's like, okay, like I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging. I'm kind of saying I'm going to do this many reps or this many laps instead of what I would normally do. And that kind of scares me. But when you finally do it, when you accomplish it, you're like, holy shit, like I got
Wow.
this. Like I can do this, you know, like
Yep.
you have that kind of that accomplishment, but you know, you become stronger and more resilient. So
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing. If we just had this conversation and didn't act on it, it would be somewhat of a loss, you know, for our soul's evolution, right?
Definitely.
To not take that kind of responsibility, have the courage to strive, you know, because
Yep.
like you said, but to release
It's-
expectation, to not say that if this doesn't work out, we're failures, right? If this doesn't work out, like we're never going to be good at business. If it doesn't work out, we're not good enough. We need more spiritual knowledge or whatever. I mean, whatever is going to come up is going to be our own personal path, right? But if it didn't work out, right, whatever that means, if it didn't work out based on our expectations, it's not up for
well, you're going to
us.
learn something.
Exactly.
Right. So you're
But
going to
like
learn
we're saying,
something.
outside on the higher mind is going to be like, no, it worked out perfectly because you're
Exactly.
going to, you know, but like,
Yeah.
how would we know unless we start trusting? And
Yeah. And if you
trusting
can get to the point where you can see that there's no mistakes, there's maybe just like U-turns that you're taking along the way.
Yeah, it's a huge thing.
And you might set out to accomplish one thing, but as you're releasing expectations, you might get pulled in a totally different direction. That something ends up being actually better and more fulfilling for your soul.
Yeah, I believe that.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the cool thing about awakening and moving into this new state of consciousness is you can really let go. At some point, there is trust and there is trust and faith, but at some point, even that starts to fall away, I would say, because you just know. Yeah. You know that you're guided, you know that you are being led. And as long as you're being yourself, acting on your passions and excitements, that's all we really need to do as physical beings. Be who we came here to be, act on our joy, act on our passions, act on our excitements, and then allow the higher self to guide us along the way. But I think for this conversation, what we really want to drive home is something that we're really learning is don't be afraid to take that initiative and get some momentum moving on projects.
Yeah.
Because you never know where it might lead, you know? All right.
It's funny. I think about, you know, I think sometimes even like you said, like it could work out and like it'll bring up something that you didn't even know could be that good.
Absolutely.
You know? And I think about that where like with Abraham Hicks talking about the vortex, talking about your inner being and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She says like, we know like from that place, like the vortex, like it knows everything that you desire deeper than like you do consciously because it's reacting based on your own interaction and your own preferences, right? So you don't like something so much, you shoot a rocket of desire. And it's like with all of our, you know, like with all of our programming and trauma or whatever, like it can just be cloudy, like it's like what you really want, right? Because on the conscious level, you might say you want money, but on the deeper level, you want freedom or validation. Definitely. Or, you know, so I think it's interesting, like you said, like kind of just trusting. I mean, it comes back to like trusting that kind of excitement and following that excitement and passion and stuff, but like, yeah, just trusting those emotions, but understanding that when you can release that expectation, you know, you can trust that it's going to be better than, like, you don't have to craft your own future like brick by brick. You can just kind of let them fall like the way that they should, which will be better than you could ever plan by yourself, I guess.
Absolutely. You know? It's like we have to learn here as souls that we actually don't know what's best for us. And that's tough. That's what's dropping expectations. It's humility. We actually, yes, that really grounds humility because we don't know what's best. We actually don't know what needs to happen, but the higher self does. Right? But we are fully participating, obviously, while we're here. But yeah, letting go of outcomes and expectations. That's huge. And then you start to flow more through life. It becomes way more of like you're moving down a river's moving and you're like in this raft and it's just going and you're just cruising with it. That's what it For me, that's what it feels like more.
You're not fighting upstream, right? Every time that the river takes a turn that you didn't quite expect, you're not like trying to jump out of the raft and trying to get to shore, like trying to, and then you end up, you know, losing your shoes, and then you get.
You're like, oh no, I want to get, the river's naturally taking you that way,
Yeah.
but you're like, oh no, I wanted to, I have to go that way.
Yeah, and God's like,
No,
you don't know.
supposed to
There's
go
like
this way.
a paradise on just the other side.
For sure.
What you said about like moving beyond like faith or whatever,
trust, like
trust.
Well, while you work that mechanism, yeah, I think eventually that can fall away.
Well, when you said knowingness,
you'll go to knowing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, you know, Dispenza, he defined in the guided meditation, he defined knowingness as trusting in the unknown, right? Because it's almost like you're not trusting in any particular, I mean, yeah, like trusting in a greater power or whatever. But I think that's an interesting way of putting it. Like trusting in the unknown is kind of goes against all of our programming, right? Like it kind of flies in the face of everything that, you know, like you said, from the physical organism, like that thing from the Course in Miracles, right? Like you have every right to be fearful if you're just living as
that wasn't verbatim, by the way, if anyone but it's something like
that would make sense.
You have every right to be fearful, right? If you're trying to like do it by yourself, as a physical person,
as just like some monkey with an iPhone, you know, just trying to, without any sort of spiritual understanding or guidance. But I love that because I like to, you know, I've done that in, you know, with his meditations, he does that, but like you embody that state, but just kind of that, even just the mental process of thinking like, oh yeah, like trusting in the unknown, like I'm embracing the unknown. That's what he called adventure, embracing the unknown. And it's like, that's really what we're talking about, you know, like it's, because there's a level of letting go. Like you can't just be your own physical self and embrace the unknown, you know, that's death, you know, that's there's a lion around the corner, you know, you can't just abandon your awareness, right? But I think it's really beautiful, like in this context, to just be like more trusting, because you do start to trust in things. You do start to, like you said, know, right? Just to know is to not doubt.
Yeah, you don't know, you don't know exactly what's going to happen, but you know the mechanism.
Yeah,
and if you know, if you're being authentic, acting on your passions and excitements, that the higher self is guiding you.
Yeah, and that it's a loving.
You know the mechanism is at work.
Yeah, and it's a loving, a loving consciousness, right?
For sure.
It's like when you break through to that and really feel that on a deep level, then that trust or that knowingness is a byproduct, right? Because if you really felt that, you're like, oh, we're pure, like on a really deep level that you can actually bring back with you, right? Not just like a one-off, but like an experience that you come back to your life and you're like, oh my God, like I am a part of the whole, like, and this consciousness loves me and like wants the best for me, and as long as I can allow it to flow through me, it's going to be this infinite source, this abundance is going to support me at all times, right?
Yes.
Like Bashar says, you're never not supported. And what does he say? He's like, you're so supported that you're allowed to believe
that you're not
that you're not supported.
And that's what a lot of us, we've done as humanity, right? It's kind of been an interesting dance that we've been in. Yeah.
He says that you're so abundant, or like you're abundant in something. You're infinitely abundant in something. You can be abundant in lack, you know?
Yeah, there's only abundance. There's only abundance.
Yeah.
But you can be abundant in lack.
Abundant in lack, abundant in fear.
Abundant in fear, abundance in doubt, abundance in unworthiness.
Yeah.
It's just,
you're always full.
We're choosing what we want to be abundant in.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Choosing what we want to be abundant in.
Yeah, man, I like to ask myself that, you know, and live like that more. And, you know, and a lot of Dispenza's work is about really embodying it, like you said, like demonstrating it. But, you know, being very conscious to, like, of course I don't do it all the time, but in my practice, and sometimes when I'm just driving or walking, even at work, you know, I'm like waiting tables and I'm just like, how can I walk? How can I breathe? How can I interact with these people, like from a state of knowingness, for example, right? Just knowing that everything's going to be good, right? Trusting in the unknown. I don't know who's going to walk through that door, right? You could let fear, you know, sometimes as humans, we just think about things. We're just like, oh, like, you know, people in America and all over the world, but especially, you know, this place, sometimes people walk into places with a gun and shoot people. And you can kind of think on that or ruminate about that. And right? You could think about that several times a day. You could think about that until your nervous system starts to shut down, right?
Definitely.
And it could maybe never happen, but you could just with that thought, you could make yourself a mess and succumb to disease or whatever.
Oh yeah.
But kind of just rambling, right? What I'm talking about, but I like that, the application of these kind of principles, not just thinking about it as a mental exercise, but actually applying it right to where you're living your life. And I'm in traffic and, I hit all these construction zones or someone cuts me off and I'm just like breathing into my heart. And I'm just like, how does the greatest version of myself like react in the situation? Right.
Mm-hmm.
What is that version of me that trusts, and again, like we talked about earlier, we're allowed to be upset. We're allowed to feel, but we're meant to feel into it and embrace it and accept it so that we can move out of it and change our state. But we don't have to live from that place, and we can be greater than our habituations and our primal drives of
Definitely, man.
fear-based, victim-based, survival-based, right?
That's what we're I know that's why I'm here. That's part of what this channel is about, is to support you on that journey of letting go and integrating the fears and the traumas and the doubts and leveling up and stepping into this new state of consciousness that I'm calling we call it New Earth, but it's where we're coming from more of our authentic self. We're trusting in the flow.
Yeah.
We're letting go of, we're allowing love to lead the way. And I'm just thinking too about just coming back full circle to what you were saying, just kind of initially how we opened this up, the conversation about just getting some momentum moving forward, and how your intuition you'll get a lot of people get inspired ideas, right? But they don't act on it for many reasons.
Yeah.
And so fear could be one of those, but I would encourage you to, when you feel that passion and excitement, and your intuition is wanting you to move forward with something, to definitely just go for it. Like, make that call, go for that drive somewhere, whatever it is.
When you feel inspired.
When you feel inspired,
right.
Take that inspired action, even if it seems like kind of crazy and ridiculous or doesn't make sense.
Or innocuous, and like you're like, oh, that doesn't matter. Like, why would that,
Because then it comes back to, again, we don't know what's best for us, but the higher self does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's again, I think you do get beyond trust, but initially there has to be like building the relationship with your higher self again. That's a relationship that, it's built on trust. So when you start to see like, oh, I'm not being led astray. Oh, my intuition actually is guiding me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can be just more at peace.
Yeah.
In your day to day.
Yeah, it feels good, right? To know like you're not completely in charge. I like to link it as like, we have a responsibility as physical beings here, but we're not in charge, and that's fine. Our literally like our job description is to act on our passions and our excitements, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be authentic, and then allow the physical mind to guide us.
I recently went back to listen to some old like Alan Watts that I haven't listened to in forever. And again, like kind of full circle, because it's like, you're like, Alan Watts, I listen to him so much. And then you just go like different things to listen to.
It's good to come back,
and then you come back to it and you're like, oh my God.
He's like, hitting on some good stuff.
You're like, it's so wise. It's everything that we've been talking about, just in different ways. But he's like, he's all about Zen and all that kind of stuff, letting go. But he talks, he says like, he's like the best leader. He's like, the true leader, like you shouldn't, he's like, you can't watch over every one of the people below you and not trust them, right? So you have to take everything, you have to, be on everyone about how they're doing things. And he's like, a true leader can trust in the system, beneath him and all around him, and the whole chain of command, or whatever you want to call it. He can trust, and he can actually let go, and he can let all of the pieces, of the people that have their own positions to work, let them work and let them have the space to work. And he's like, it's a joy. He's like, it's such a relief, to not have to worry about all these little things and all these inner workings. And obviously that analogy is very clear for humans as connected to the whole, but it's like, it's such a, oh my God, it's way easier in the moments where I actually can let go. And again, it happens naturally a lot of times. Like
Hmm.
people get so frustrated that they give up, and then that's when the magic happens, you know.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there's no right or wrong way because you get there eventually. And even if you hold on your whole life, well, you got to die someday. So you know, he's like you better let go of it because there's no way of holding on to it,
That's
right?
actually a perfect description for, the state of consciousness we've been in. We could give it any name we want, but let's just call it the ego, mind, identity. But it's the root of it is control. It's trying to control everything.
Yeah.
People, the universe, everything around
Ourselves,
it. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all
Control
the
is a good
things.
word for that. And so we move from controlling to allowing.
Yeah.
Controlling to allowing.
Well, it makes sense. Like we talk about, not repressing emotions and accepting our true nature. Like you can't do that because of the controlling, if you're psychologically, subconsciously, right? Like, oh, I can't be this way. Like I can't be this way sexually. I can't express myself like this sexually, or
Hmm.
I can't, it's not okay. It's not socially acceptable to be like this, right? All these things that are based on programs. So you're consciously trying to control aspects of yourself is just going against your own nature, right? Which is sad because I mean it's
Yeah.
religion, like a lot of like organized religion and cultures have it's built into it, right, to control people. But they become
Yeah.
they control them. That's why religion and stuff is so powerful because it's
The people that try to control the most are the people that are the most in fear.
yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, they're the most in fear. And
But,
fear is the opposite, right, of love.
yeah, I just mean like it's crazy. It's like it's so smart, right? But it's like you get people to control themselves. It's like it's not
Hmm.
like there's actually
Oh, yeah.
that like the organized thing. It's like the whole
Yeah.
purpose of it is to influence people's psyche to where they
Hmm.
have to follow these rules because if
They're
not,
not
like
being, yeah.
they're right, they're not being part of that. They're not being in alignment with those
Hmm.
values.
And sometimes,
So
just as a side note, I know we're kind of talking a little all over the place, but
yeah,
yeah, sometimes in order to survive in this realm, you do have to suppress your naturalness.
yeah,
That is shifting and changing through these conversations and as we up level, but there is a reality to
certainly
like
where it's at.
survival where you might
Yeah,
need to actually do that.
and that's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, we wouldn't have made it here to 2024 if you know all of the people that had to hide just from whatever, like we like to think like, oh, like black people or queer people or whatever. And it's like, if you're just someone that didn't believe in wherever you lived, if you didn't believe in the current system or religion or government, like you better keep that shit to yourself, or you'd be
For sure.
crucified. You'd be, you know,
Yeah.
tortured,
Yeah.
where everyone's
No,
watching you.
not
Like
that long ago, right?
some medieval shit that we
Some
did
crazy
to
stuff,
humans,
man. It's yeah, it's wild, man.
Yeah.
So thankfully, I believe we are at a point where there's a lot more light and consciousness on the planet, and a lot more love and definitely understanding of the how to heal and how to evolve, and we definitely want to be part of that and share our experiences. So, but yeah, man, you want to just to come back full circle, man, on the importance of acting on your passion and actually like, yeah, just moving forward with no idea or expectation why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, or no, I'm
Trusting.
sorry, no expectation on the outcome.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Huge. Not easy to
Yeah.
do, but the beautiful thing is if you actually can, even in just moments, right? If you just even in the beginning, you're gonna get better at it the more you try, right? It's a
Yeah,
skill
it's
like
like
anything
anything
else.
else. It's a skill
Anything
to
else.
practice.
But imagine like if what we're saying is like you're just gonna feel better, right? like
Yeah.
like if you did that, you're gonna feel so much. Like I know that. Like I know like us right now, like as we move forward with what we're doing, that I'm naturally going to want to come up with, like expectations and certain things that are going to create resistance. And I'm like, oh, what a shame. I got to like let go and like actually allow myself to feel relaxed. Like, isn't it funny? Like, we're afraid of like feeling good about something,
Oh,
you know?
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Because like you'll
Hmm.
physically feel better if you like didn't care so much, if you didn't put so much support. But again, it's
Yeah.
belief systems, it's, all that shit.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it's simple, right? So it's like
Great
just
way.
keep
It's not.
caring less about where it's going. Just be present and just like, hey, today we made some progress. all right, things didn't go the way that we wanted them to go. You know, what are our solutions? Oh,
Cool.
look.
We're gonna learn
And then,
from it.
yeah, and then we might turn around and like there's a guy there like, hi, I like you. I have the perfect solution. Like, oh, good thing I didn't worry about it. You know, like
Hmm.
you just
I
don't
just
know.
like, but yeah, I can't emphasize enough on my journey, because my journey took me deep into stillness and eternal peace and a lot of disidentification from the world, which is beautiful. But that's not going to. It's difficult to ground things and manifest things in this reality without like grounded action.
Mm.
So as I've gotten better at taking grounded action, it's amazing the synchronicities that will start to like come up in the people that you'll meet.
Yeah.
Right. Just for a quick example, like my buddy wanted to, this was like a few months ago, right? Wanted to get together or no, I got inspired to call him. I haven't seen him in a while and say, hey, let's get together. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And let's meet at this coffee shop. Like, okay, cool. Never been there. But ended up meeting him there. And 2 weeks later, I started to work there just through synchronicity. Got inspired to call him. We met up, talked with the owner. They needed help. I was free, started to work there in a few weeks. Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah. No job interview, no resume, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just trusting the excitement. But I took the initiative, which was like, oh, I haven't seen my friend in a while. I want to call him and get together.
Yeah. So, dude. I love stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
Because then just like in that timeline, like who knows where, like just working in the coffee shop, you know? Like where, like just for like example, I mean, because
somebody comes in, I meet somebody, and that catapults me in another direction.
Yeah, well, I mean, I worked where I've worked for like 7 years, and when I just think about like how many people I've met through that, how many connections,
Yep.
Right?
Oh, there we go.
Right, there you go. Like at least 20 people that like, you know, have whole storylines, right? Relationships,
it's so cool to look
marriage.
Like if I don't take the job working at the float spa, we never meet.
Yeah.
And we're not here hanging out, having fun, making a video,
creating a fucking space.
So you never know. I'll also say this too, like just pay attention to wherever you are, because there's so many things happening around. You have no idea, like the people, places, and things that you may be meant to make connections with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust that excitement. Trust that spark.
Yep.
Fan the flame too. You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Fan the flame. Don't just stomp it out because you're afraid you might burn too bright, burn down the village. Like no.
Mm-hmm. If fear comes, if you get intuition and you want to act on something and fear comes up, just be with it unconditionally. There's many ways to work with it, but don't let it prevent you necessarily from taking action. But you don't want to fight it either. Just before we get off, you can be with it unconditionally, work with it, explore the belief system around it. Yeah, and try to get it to be in alignment with your passions and your intuition.
Yeah.
You kind of want if you can, you want all your parts working together, moving in the same direction. Just least
say that again though.
Just like,
sorry.
If you
are
in
alignment with your.
Yeah. So a lot of times when we are acting on our passions, fears will come up that will want to prevent you from doing that for numerous reasons.
Yeah.
So my suggestion would be to work with the fear. You don't want to, it's not maybe best to bulldoze over it, or to let it control you and not act.
Yeah.
What you want to do is just investigate it. It's a messenger knocking on your door, letting you know that you have a negative belief. Right? So when I say all your parts, that's a part of you, right? That fear is like a fractured part of your child self, let's say. That's like, oh, wow, you don't want to do that because, you're going to look stupid, or what will people think of you, or they might not like you. So you can be with that part of yourself and, again, investigate the beliefs behind it. And once you bring more light into it, you can shift and change the belief and get that part of you on board, right? depending on how people, like, you can even talk to that part of yourself. Say, oh no, it's totally fine. Like, I'm here now. You know, everything's gonna be totally okay. We're following our passions. And you'll literally, if you're intuitive enough and sensitive enough, you'll feel this part of you just kind of relax and come back into your heart. And it's like now kind of more of you is on board. All these parts are moving in the same direction. Yeah. So
that's a cool way of putting it.
Yeah, it's one way to look at it. It's one way to like act on your passions and then alchemize and heal the fractured parts of your psyche that are still in fear.
Yeah.
So you're doing both.
Yeah, no, it's a cool way of putting it, because like, you're right. I mean, if you had that fear pulling you this direction, but you have your
Passions
dream
going
and
here.
your whatever and your vision, you're being right
There's a sense
until
of like,
this
this part of you
either
still
this
like,
is going to go that way or this needs to go this way. But you gotta like,
you want to
gotta
move.
work with
You
it.
definitely want to move on that passion
Of course, yeah.
train, right? And
Of
just
course.
keep going. But
I'm saying, like, if you're not careful, if you just keep succumbing to the fear, right, thoughts, your whole vision's going to be funneled into that fear, right, where everything's going to be hellish, you know?
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool. This is probably going to be 2 videos. I'm probably going to cut it in half.
You could just let it whole thing run. We're having like, it's like a mini podcast or something.
I mean, for my own sake.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, nice to connect with you. You know, if you come across this video, you know, much love on your journey, and act on that passion, have faith, and you know, trust your intuition.
Trust the unknown. Yeah. Cool. Peace. Yeah.